Alien Commander showed the legendary vault, but the human opened it with just one move. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The vast chamber fell silent as Commander Vazik, towering over the assembly with his 8-foot frame of corded muscle and iridescent scales, gestured dramatically toward the ancient structure embedded in the cavern wall. Behind him stood a single human, seemingly insignificant among the gathering of the galaxy's most accomplished beings. The Galactic Confederation had existed for 12,000 years, uniting thousands of species across 17 galactic arms. It had weathered wars, cosmic calamities, and the rise and fall of entire civilizations. Its technology had conquered death, distance, and even dimensional barriers. Yet for all their advancement, the mysterious vault of Dramer had remained sealed since before recorded history. For 9 centuries, we have studied this vault, Commander Vazik announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. The gathered dignitaries from 100 worlds watched with rapt attention. The legends claim it contains the lost knowledge of the precursors, the beings who seeded our galaxy with life 15 million years ago. The greatest minds of the Confederation have failed to open it. Today, we make our final attempt. Nathan Brooks, the human representative, shifted uncomfortably as dozens of alien eyes turned toward him. 6 months ago, humanity had finally been granted probationary membership in the Confederation after centuries of observation. Earth was still adjusting to the reality that they were merely one world among millions, and far from the most advanced. Nathan had been selected not for any particular brilliance, but because of humanity's reputation for unconventional thinking, a trait most advanced species considered primitive but occasionally useful. "I'm still not sure why I'm here," Nathan said, his voice barely audible in the vast space. Vazik's secondary breathing membranes fluttered in what Nathan had learned was the Zathian equivalent of a condescending smile. "Your species possesses certain peculiarities of thought that might provide a fresh perspective. You will observe our final attempt, and should that fail, you may make suggestions. It costs us nothing." The gathered scientists and engineers, the best from dozens of advanced worlds, nodded in agreement. A Viridian mathematician with 6 limbs and crystalline skin stepped forward. "Human, you must understand that we have applied every known scientific principle. The vault is composed of an unknown material that resists all forms of analysis. It has no detectable power source, yet it clearly operates on some principle beyond our current understanding." Nathan nodded, studying the structure. It resembled a massive disk embedded in the rock wall, about 30 feet in diameter, with a complex series of circular patterns etched into its surface. The material was a dull gray that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The only feature breaking the perfect circle was a small indentation at the center, roughly the size of a human hand. As he watched, a team of alien scientists approached the vault, wielding devices that pulsed with energy fields beyond human comprehension. For hours, they worked methodically, applying increasingly exotic technologies. Quantum field manipulators, chronometric resonators, and devices Nathan couldn't begin to understand probed the ancient structure without effect. The vault remained obstinately sealed as the day wore on. One by one, the alien scientists stepped back, their postures indicating frustration or resignation. As expected, Commander Vazik finally declared, "We have exhausted all known approaches." His upper eyes fixed on Nathan while his lower pair continued monitoring the vault. "Human, your species' moment has arrived. You may approach." Nathan swallowed nervously as he walked forward. The chamber had fallen completely silent. He could feel hundreds of alien eyes tracking his movement, most with skepticism, some with amusement. He was a cosmic joke, the primitive brought in as a last resort after the real experts had failed. Standing before the vault, Nathan studied it carefully. The circular patterns seemed to flow inward toward the central indentation like water spiraling down a drain. He reached out, hesitating just above the depression. "We have attempted physical contact," said a spindly Tellurian scientist. "The vault does not respond to pressure, heat, electromagnetic fields, or biological signatures? Nathan nodded but continued studying the patterns. Something about them seemed almost familiar, triggering a memory from his childhood on Earth. "Has anyone tried rotating it?" he asked. The chamber erupted in a chorus of translator-mediated sounds indicating amusement or disbelief. The vault is seamlessly embedded in bedrock that predates this planet's current continental configuration, explained a floating orb-like being that Nathan recognized as a member of the Mebari, one of the oldest species in the Confederation. There are no rotational components. Nathan frowned, still staring at the patterns. But these circles, they're not just decorative, are they? They're showing movement, direction. We believe they represent some form of mathematical equation or dimensional coordinates, replied the Viridian mathematician. Nathan took a deep breath. I'd like to try something that might seem silly to all of you, but on Earth, we have devices called combination locks that operate on a simple mechanical principle. You have to turn them in specific patterns to align internal components. Before anyone could object, Nathan placed his palm against the central indentation and applied gentle pressure while turning his hand counterclockwise. The chamber filled with gasps and exclamations as the depression sank slightly into the wall. Encouraged, Nathan continued turning until he felt resistance, then reversed direction. The vault responded with a deep, resonating hum. The circular patterns began to glow with a soft blue light that grew in intensity. Nathan continued rotating his hand, following the intuitive pattern suggested by the circles, alternating directions when he felt subtle changes in resistance. "Impossible," whispered Commander Vazik. All four eyes widened in shock. With a final turn, Nathan felt a definitive click beneath his palm. He stepped back as the entire disk began to rotate on its own, the blue glow intensifying until it was almost blinding. The assembled aliens retreated in alarm as the ancient mechanism activated fully for the first time in countless millennia. The massive disk rotated 90 degrees and then split along invisible seams, revealing a dark passage beyond. Stunned silence filled the chamber. Nathan stood frozen, as surprised as anyone by what had happened. Commander Vazik was the first to recover, stepping forward to stand beside Nathan. "How?" he demanded, his voice a mixture of awe and suspicion. "How did you know?" Nathan shrugged, still staring at the open vault. Sometimes the simplest solution is the one that gets overlooked. On Earth, we still use physical locks in many places. The patterns reminded me of an old safe my grandfather had. I just tried what would have worked on that. "A primitive mechanical interface," muttered the Viridian mathematician, compound eyes blinking rapidly in what Nathan had learned indicated intense calculation. "We were looking for advanced technology, quantum signatures, dimensional manipulations, but the precursors designed it to respond to the simplest possible input." "Perhaps," said the floating Mebari, its voice resonating directly in Nathan's mind. "That was precisely the point. A test, or perhaps a filter." Commander Vazik's membranes fluttered rapidly. "Explain." The Mebari drifted closer to the vault entrance. "Consider the implications. The vault does not respond to our most advanced technologies, but opens to a simple physical action. Perhaps the precursors wished to ensure that only those who retained an understanding of fundamental physical principles could access their legacy, not those who had grown so dependent on advanced technology that they had forgotten the basics." That's absurd," sputtered a tentacled scientist from the back of the chamber. "The precursors were the most advanced civilization ever to exist in our galaxy." "And yet," replied the Mebari calmly, "their vault opened to the touch of the newest, least advanced species present." A murmur spread through the assembly as the implications sank in. Nathan felt suddenly uncomfortable with the way many of the aliens were looking at him, some with new respect, others with clear suspicion. Commander Vazik straightened to his full height. "We shall explore the vault immediately. Prepare the research team." He turned to Nathan, studying him with all four eyes. "You will accompany us, human. It seems the precursors may have left their legacy for species more like yours than ours." The exploration team assembled quickly, 12 specialists from different worlds, Commander Vazek and Nathan. They approached the open vault cautiously, scanning equipment deployed before them. No detectable energy signatures, reported a Kelverin technician, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with data patterns. Atmosphere matches the chamber. No radiation. No apparent defenses. Commander Vazek nodded. Proceed. They entered the vault, lights activating on their equipment. The passage extended about 30 feet before opening into a perfectly spherical chamber approximately 100 feet in diameter. The walls were covered in the same strange material as the door, with similar circular patterns spanning the entire surface. At the center of the chamber floated a small crystalline object about the size of a human fist, pulsing with a gentle inner light that cycled slowly through all visible colors. Incredible, whispered the Viridian mathematician. The patterns on the walls, they're a mathematical representation of the entire galaxy, showing stellar formation and movement across millions of years. The team spread out, carefully studying the chamber while avoiding direct contact with anything. Nathan remained near the entrance, feeling distinctly out of his depth as the alien scientists deployed increasingly exotic instruments. After several minutes, Commander Vazek approached the floating crystal at the center but maintained a cautious distance. This must be the repository of precursor knowledge, he said. We must determine how to access it safely. As the team debated the best approach, Nathan found himself drawn to a section of wall near the entrance. Unlike the flowing circular patterns elsewhere, this section contained what appeared to be a series of distinct symbols arranged in rows. Excuse me, he called out, but has anyone looked at this section here? These don't match the patterns elsewhere. A Thorian linguist with 4 eyes on stalks swiveled toward him. Those are likely just mathematical variants, she said dismissively. Nathan frowned. I don't think so. These look more like. He trailed off, studying the symbols more closely. They almost look like instructions. That caught the team's attention. Several scientists moved to examine the section Nathan had identified. Impossible to determine without further analysis, the linguist concluded. These symbols don't correspond to any known precursor artifacts. Nathan stepped closer, drawn by something he couldn't quite articulate. The symbols seemed to shift slightly as he looked at them, almost as if responding to his presence. I think, he began, then paused as a strange certainty filled him. I think they're meant to be read by human eyes. The declaration was met with skepticism, but Nathan was already reaching out, his fingers tracing the outline of one of the symbols. As his skin made contact, the symbol illuminated with the same blue glow as the door had. The entire section of wall came to life, symbols rearranging themselves before his eyes. Step back, commanded Vazek, but it was too late. The symbols coalesced into recognizable patterns, patterns that Nathan somehow knew were meant for him. Not words exactly, but concepts, ideas flowing directly into his mind as he maintained contact with the wall. They were waiting for us, he whispered, eyes wide. The precursors, they knew humans would eventually come here. Explain, demanded Vazek, tension evident in his posture. Nathan struggled to articulate what he was experiencing. The precursors, they weren't aliens. They were humans, or at least, they were what humans might become millions of years in the future. Disbelief and alarm spread through the research team. The Mebari floated forward, its crystalline surface shimmering with interest. How is this possible? Nathan continued, the knowledge flowing into him faster than he could process it. They discovered time travel, but not in the way we imagine it. They couldn't physically travel back, but they could project information, influence events. They've been guiding human evolution for millions of years, preparing us. For what purpose? Asked the Mebari. Nathan turned to the floating crystal at the center of the chamber. For this moment. The crystal contains their knowledge, but it's keyed specifically to human neural patterns. It won't work for any other species. Commander Vazek's membranes flattened against his face, a sign of extreme agitation. This cannot be permitted. If what you say is true, it would fundamentally upset the balance of power in the Confederation. Humanity cannot be granted exclusive access to precursor knowledge. The tension in the chamber escalated rapidly. Several of the alien scientists moved to block Nathan from the crystal, while others seemed unsure how to proceed. "I don't think we have a choice," Nathan said quietly. "The precursors designed it this way for a reason." "And what reason would that be?" challenged Vazek. Nathan hesitated, still processing the information flowing into his mind. "Because humanity stands at a crossroads. We're young enough that we haven't forgotten our connection to the physical world, but advanced enough to understand the implications of what the precursors want to share. They believe we can avoid the mistakes they made, mistakes that eventually led to their extinction." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The memory was the first to respond, its crystalline surface pulsing with deep blues and purples. "If what the human says is true, then interference would violate the prime directive of non-intervention in cosmic destiny," it stated formally. "The precursors have chosen humanity as their inheritors. We must respect that choice, regardless of our concerns." Commander Vazek's upper eyes narrowed while his lower pair darted between Nathan and the crystal. "The Confederation Council must be consulted before any action is taken. This chamber will be sealed until a decision is reached." "I don't think that's possible," Nathan said, his voice strangely calm as more knowledge filtered into his consciousness. "The vault was designed to close permanently once accessed, unless the process is completed. We have limited time." As if confirming his words, a low vibration began to emanate from the walls, and the blue glow intensified. "What have you done?" demanded Vazek. "Nothing yet," Nathan replied, turning toward the crystal. "But I need to complete what the precursor started, or everything in this chamber will be lost forever, including us." The alien scientists exchanged alarmed glances, their various biological indicators showing stress and uncertainty. "We cannot allow this," Vazek declared, moving to block Nathan's path. The memory floated between them. "Commander, if the human speaks the truth, preventing him from acting could doom us all. The precursors would not have created such a safeguard without reason." The vibration increased, and small particles began to detach from the walls, floating upward and disintegrating. "We're out of time," Nathan said urgently. "Please, you have to trust me." Commander Vazek hesitated, his internal conflict visible in the rapid movement of all four eyes. Finally, he stepped aside. "Proceed, human. But know that the consequences of your actions will affect all of humanity's standing in the Confederation." Nathan nodded grimly and approached the floating crystal. As he drew near, it pulsed more rapidly, cycling through colors with increasing speed. The knowledge in his mind expanded, providing instructions he couldn't have anticipated but somehow instantly understood. He reached out with both hands, palms facing the crystal without touching it. The artifact responded immediately, floating toward him until it hovered just inches from his chest. Then, in a burst of brilliant light, it separated into countless shimmering particles that swirled around him like a miniature galaxy. The alien scientists retreated in alarm as the swarm of luminous particles engulfed Nathan completely. For a moment, his human form was entirely obscured by the swirling lights. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the display ended. The particles vanished, seemingly absorbed into Nathan's body, which now emitted a subtle glow that quickly faded. Nathan stood still, eyes closed, processing the vast influx of information. When he opened them again, they briefly shimmered with the same multicolored light as the crystal before returning to normal. "It's done," he said quietly. The vibrations stopped. The chamber stabilized, the disintegration ceasing as quickly as it had begun. "What happened?" demanded Commander Vazek. "What did you receive?" Nathan took a deep breath, organizing the overwhelming knowledge that now resided within his mind. "Everything. The complete history and knowledge of the precursors. Their science, their philosophy, their mistakes and triumphs." "And you can comprehend this information?" asked the Viridian mathematician skeptically. "Not all at once," Nathan admitted. "It's encoded in a way that will reveal itself gradually, as humanity is ready for each piece. I'm just the receiver." the first link in a chain that will eventually extend to all of humanity. Commander Vazik's membranes fluttered rapidly. This is unprecedented. One species cannot be given such an advantage over all others. Nathan shook his head. That's not the intention. The knowledge isn't meant to elevate humanity above others. It's meant to help us avoid the same fate as the precursors. And what fate was that? Asked the Mebari. Nathan's expression grew solemn. They advanced too quickly, developed technologies they couldn't control. They achieved what they thought was perfection, mastering the physical universe entirely. But in doing so, they lost something essential: their connection to their own humanity, their understanding of the fundamental principles that had guided their evolution. He gestured around the chamber. This vault, with its simple mechanical lock, was their reminder, their message to themselves and to us. The most advanced technology is meaningless without the wisdom to use it properly. As Nathan spoke, the chamber began to change. The patterns on the walls shifted, forming new configurations that pulsed with gentle light. "What's happening?" asked one of the scientists. Nathan smiled. "The vault is revealing its final purpose. It's not just a repository of knowledge, it's a beacon. There are others like it scattered throughout the galaxy, waiting to be found. Each contains different aspects of precursor knowledge, keyed to different species." The wall directly opposite the entrance transformed entirely, revealing what appeared to be a star map with several points highlighted in brilliant blue. "The precursors didn't choose humanity alone," Nathan explained, understanding flowing through him. "They selected representatives from multiple evolutionary paths, species with the potential to learn from the precursors' mistakes and build something better together. Humanity is just one piece of a much larger puzzle." Commander Vazik approached the star map, studying it with all four eyes. "These coordinates, they're spread across the entire galaxy, many in uncharted regions. A challenge for the Confederation," Nathan suggested. "A reason to explore beyond known space, to seek out the other chosen species and bring them into the fold. The precursors believe that only through cooperation between fundamentally different types of intelligence could their knowledge be safely implemented." The implications hung in the air as the research team contemplated what they had discovered. It was not at all what any of them had expected to find within the legendary vault. "The Confederation Council must be informed immediately," Commander Vazik declared, though his tone had shifted from suspicion to something approaching wonder. "This discovery changes everything we thought we knew about our galactic history." As the team prepared to exit the vault, Nathan remained behind for a moment, placing his palm once more against the wall of symbols. A final message flowed into his mind, not knowledge this time, but something more personal. A greeting across time from those who had once been human to what humanity might yet become. "We are ready," he whispered in response, then turned to join the others. As they exited the vault, the massive door began to close behind them, sealing away the chamber once more. But Nathan knew it had served its purpose. The knowledge was now carried within him, and the coordinates to the other vaults were recorded by the research team. The precursor's legacy would live on, not through a single species, but through the combined efforts of many. Commander Vazik approached Nathan as they re-entered the main cavern, where the assembled dignitaries waited anxiously for news. "Human," he said, his voice carrying a new note of respect, "it seems the Confederation has underestimated your species. Perhaps there is wisdom and simplicity that we had forgotten." Nathan smiled. "I think that was precisely the point of the vault. Sometimes the most profound solutions are also the most straightforward." The commander's membranes fluttered in what Nathan now recognized as amusement. A simple turn of the hand has opened not just a vault, but a new chapter in galactic history. The Confederation will never be the same after today. As they rejoined the waiting assembly, Nathan felt the weight of the knowledge within him, knowledge that would gradually unfold across generations of humanity. The precursors had trusted his species with their legacy, not because humans were special or superior, but because they still remembered how to see the obvious when others were blinded by complexity. In the end, the legendary vault had been opened not by the most advanced technology, but by the simplest human gesture, a turn of the hand and a willingness to try what others had deemed too primitive to consider. Sometimes, Nathan reflected, the most powerful move was the most elementary one. And as the news spread throughout the vast chamber and beyond, to ships waiting in orbit and worlds across the Confederation, Nathan knew that humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun. 2 months after the opening of the Drummer Vault, Nathan stood at the viewport of the Confederation flagship Eternal Vigilance, watching as the massive vessel dropped out of hyperspace into orbit around Earth. The shimmering blue-green planet filled him with a complex mixture of emotions, pride, nostalgia, and apprehension about what was to come. "Your world is quite beautiful," remarked Commander Vazik, joining him at the viewport. "More water than most habitable planets. Your species evolved in a rather unique environment." Nathan nodded, eyes still fixed on his home. That might explain some of our peculiarities. In the weeks following the discovery, Nathan had become something of a celebrity throughout the Confederation. The human who had solved the ancient mystery using the simplest of approaches was a source of fascination for species that had long since abandoned mechanical interfaces in favor of neural links and quantum entanglement. More significantly, the revelation that humanity might be one of the species chosen by the precursors had elevated Earth's status from probationary member to a world of special interest. "The Confederation Council is assembling as we speak," Vazik said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a gesture Nathan had learned indicated thoughtfulness. "They're eager to begin the search for the other vaults. And equally eager to understand what's happening in my head, I imagine," Nathan replied with a wry smile. The knowledge implanted by the crystal was unfolding gradually, as promised. Each day, Nathan awoke with new understanding, pieces of precursor science and history integrating seamlessly with his consciousness. The Confederation scientists had monitored this process with increasing amazement, as concepts far beyond current galactic understanding became accessible to his formerly ordinary human mind. "There is that," Vazik acknowledged. "Many still find it difficult to accept that such advanced beings would choose humans as primary inheritors. Your species has barely mastered interplanetary travel, which might be exactly why we were chosen," Nathan said, repeating what had become his standard response to such observations. "We still remember what it means to struggle with the fundamentals." Vazik's breathing membranes fluttered in agreement. The Mebari philosophers have been particularly vocal about this interpretation. They suggest that the most advanced civilizations in the Confederation have become too dependent on their technologies, losing connection with the physical principles that underlie them. A soft chime indicated that the ship had established stable orbit. Nathan took a deep breath, knowing what came next. "It's time," Vazik said. "Your world leaders are waiting." The journey down to Earth was brief, but momentous. For the first time in history, a Confederation diplomatic vessel would land publicly on human soil, making official what had previously been known only to a small number of government officials. Humanity would finally learn they were not alone in the universe, and moreover, that they had been chosen for a special role in galactic affairs. The landing site was a specially prepared field outside the United Nations headquarters in New York. As the sleek silver craft descended through the atmosphere, Nathan could imagine the scene below, the gathered dignitaries, the media, the crowds of onlookers witnessing history in the making. "Are you prepared?" asked Vazik as the ship settled gently onto the landing pad. Nathan straightened his Confederation formal attire, a subtle blend of Earth fashion and galactic styling that had been created specifically for this occasion. "As ready as I'll ever be," he replied, "though I'm not sure Earth is ready for what we're bringing." Vazik's upper eyes fixed on him, while the lower pair monitored the deployment of the landing ramp. "The precursors believed your species was ready. That must count for something." The ramp extended and the delegation prepared to disembark. Alongside Nathan and Commander Vazik were representatives from 11 major Confederation species, each selected for their diplomatic experience and relatively humanoid appearance. The Confederation had decided that for this first public contact, it would be best to ease humanity into the full diversity of galactic life. Remember, Vazek instructed the delegation, this species is accustomed to being alone in the universe. Their reactions may be unpredictable. Nathan couldn't help but smile at the understatement. He stepped forward, taking his position at the front of the delegation. It had been decided that he should be the first to emerge, a familiar human face before the parade of aliens that would follow. The external doors slid open, revealing bright sunlight and the expectant hush of thousands of spectators. Nathan took a deep breath and stepped onto the ramp, emerging into the view of humanity and history. The silence held for a moment, then erupted into a cacophony of gasps, cheers, and exclamations as people recognized him. Nathan Brooks, the astronomer from Colorado who had disappeared 6 months earlier during what was officially described as a research expedition to Antarctica. He raised his hand in greeting, heart pounding as he descended the ramp. Behind him came Commander Vazek, his imposing Zathian form drawing audible reactions from the crowd. The other delegates followed in a carefully choreographed procession that showcased the diversity of intelligent life while avoiding the more extreme physiological variations that might provoke fear rather than wonder. The world's leaders waited on a specially constructed platform, their expressions ranging from awe to apprehension. Nathan recognized the UN Secretary-General, who stepped forward to meet him at the bottom of the ramp. "Dr. Brooks," she said, her voice steady despite the historic gravity of the moment. "On behalf of humanity, welcome home. And to your companions, welcome to Earth." Nathan smiled, acutely aware of the billions watching this broadcast worldwide. "Madam Secretary-General, I bring greetings from the Galactic Confederation, a union of over 3,000 intelligent species across our galaxy. Today marks not just first contact, but Earth's formal recognition as a world of special significance within the galactic community." The formalities continued as introductions were made and preliminary diplomatic protocols established. Through it all, Nathan felt the weight of the knowledge within him, knowing that what he carried would transform human civilization more profoundly than even this moment of first contact. Hours later, after the public ceremonies had concluded, Nathan found himself in a secure conference room deep within the UN building. Present were the Secretary-General, the leaders of Earth's major powers, and Commander Vazek representing the Confederation. "So," began the U.S. President, leaning forward in her chair, "beyond the pageantry and diplomatic niceties, what does all this mean for Earth? For humanity?" Nathan exchanged a glance with Vazek, who nodded for him to proceed. "It means everything changes," Nathan said simply. "The knowledge I've been entrusted with by the precursors, the beings we now know were our evolutionary architects, will transform every aspect of human civilization. Clean energy, environmental restoration, medical advances that will effectively end disease and aging, faster than light travel. But that's just the beginning." "And what does the Confederation expect in return?" asked the Russian president, his expression guarded. Commander Vazek's membranes fluttered. "The Confederation asks nothing in return. We are as surprised by these developments as you are. The precursors have chosen humanity for reasons we are still trying to understand. Our role is simply to facilitate the process they set in motion millions of years ago." "That's a bit difficult to believe," remarked the Chinese premier. "Advanced civilizations don't typically assist developing ones without expecting some benefit." Nathan smiled. "That's human thinking, no offense intended. The Confederation operates on different principles. They've existed for 12,000 years by prioritizing stability and mutual advancement over competition." "And yet," interjected the European Union president, "you mentioned other vaults, keyed to other species. This suggests the precursors didn't choose humanity alone for their legacy." "Precisely," Nathan confirmed. "Based on the star map revealed in the vault, there are 11 other repositories scattered throughout the galaxy, each presumably containing different aspects of precursor knowledge. Some may be keyed to known Confederation species, others to civilizations not yet discovered. A puzzle distributed across the stars," mused the Secretary-General. with each piece held by a different species. Commander Vazik's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. The Confederation Council believes this was intentional, a mechanism to ensure cooperation. No single species can possess the complete legacy. Only by working together can the full knowledge of the precursors be reconstructed. The Earth leaders exchanged glances, the implications sinking in. So our sudden elevation on the galactic stage comes with strings attached, observed the Japanese Prime Minister. We must cooperate with these other, chosen species. I wouldn't call them strings, Nathan replied. More like an opportunity. The precursors believed that the best future for all intelligent life would come through collaboration between fundamentally different types of minds. Humanity has been invited to play a crucial role in that future. The discussion continued for hours, covering everything from the immediate implications for Earth's governments to the long-term integration of humanity into the galactic community. Throughout, Nathan felt the knowledge within him continuing to unfold, providing insights and answers he couldn't have possessed before his encounter with the crystal. As the meeting concluded, the Secretary General approached Nathan privately. Dr. Brooks, I must ask, how are you handling all of this? The responsibility you've been given is enormous. Nathan considered the question carefully. It's overwhelming, he admitted. But the precursors designed the process well. The knowledge emerges gradually, in ways I can assimilate without being crushed by it. And I'm not meant to carry it alone forever. Just to be the first receiver, the bridge between what humanity is and what it might become. She nodded thoughtfully. And what is it that we might become, according to these precursors? Nathan smiled. Something remarkable. Not perfect, they were clear about that. The precursors achieved what they thought was perfection and discovered it was a dead end. They're offering us a different path, a way to advance without losing what makes us human. And what is that, in your opinion? Our connection to the physical world, Nathan replied without hesitation. Our ability to see the simple solution when others are blinded by complexity. Our creativity in the face of limitations. He laughed softly. After all, I opened their vault with a turn of my hand when the most advanced technologies in the galaxy couldn't crack it. In the weeks that followed, Earth underwent the most significant transformation in its history. The public revelation of extraterrestrial life was just the beginning. Nathan began sharing carefully selected pieces of precursor knowledge, clean energy technologies that could immediately address climate change, medical advances that targeted humanity's most devastating diseases, agricultural innovations that could end global hunger. The Confederation established a permanent embassy in Earth orbit, a stunning ring-shaped structure visible from the planet's surface. Ships from dozens of worlds arrived daily, carrying diplomats, scientists, and observers eager to understand the species that had unlocked the first precursor vault. 3 months after first contact, Nathan stood on the observation deck of the orbital embassy, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath him. Beside him stood Alara, a Mebari philosopher who had become one of his closest advisors in navigating the complex intersection of human and galactic politics. The Confederation Council has approved the expedition to locate the second vault, she informed him, her crystalline form shimmering with patterns that indicated excitement. The coordinates point to a system in the Sagittarius Arm, beyond current Confederation territory. Have they detected any signs of civilization there? Nathan asked. Preliminary long-range scans suggest a pre-space flight technological species, Alara replied. If they are indeed one of the chosen, it would align with the pattern established with humanity, a species on the cusp of major advancement, not yet fully integrated into the galactic community. Nathan nodded, contemplating the implications. The Confederation wants me to join the expedition, I assume? You are the only being who has successfully opened a vault, Alara pointed out. Your presence would seem essential. As they discussed the details of the upcoming mission, an alert chimed softly. Nathan glanced at his communication device, a Confederation technology seamlessly integrated with his neural patterns thanks to the precursor knowledge. It's time for my address to the UN General Assembly, he said, checking the time. They're voting today on the formation of the Earth Unification Council. Alera's surface rippled with blue patterns indicating approval. A significant step. Unified planetary governance is typically a prerequisite for full Confederation membership. If it passes, Nathan cautioned, humans have a long history of clinging to national identities. Yet they also have a remarkable capacity for adaptation, Alera observed. In just 3 months, your species has assimilated revelations that would destabilize many civilizations. There is an elasticity to human thinking that the Confederation finds most intriguing. Nathan smiled as they made their way to the transportation hub. We've had a lot of practice adapting to new circumstances. It's kind of our specialty. The shuttle ride down to Earth took only minutes in the Confederation craft. As they descended toward the UN headquarters, now expanded to include facilities specifically designed for interspecies diplomacy, Nathan reflected on how quickly humanity had embraced its new reality. There had been fear and resistance initially, particularly from religious institutions and those who viewed the alien presence as a threat. But the tangible benefits of Confederation technology, the diseases cured, the environmental damage reversed, the economic opportunities created, had won over all but the most stubborn opponents. The General Assembly Hall had been reconfigured to accommodate non-human attendees, with specialized seating and atmospheric controls for different physiological needs. As Nathan took his position at the podium, he surveyed the gathered representatives of humanity alongside delegates from 27 Confederation worlds. Distinguished representatives, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. Today marks another historic step in humanity's integration into the galactic community. The resolution before you proposes the establishment of the Earth Unification Council, not to replace national governments, but to coordinate humanity's collective engagement with the universe beyond our planet. He continued, outlining the structure and purpose of the proposed council, emphasizing both the opportunities and responsibilities that came with Earth's new status. As he spoke, he felt the precursor knowledge within him guiding his words, helping him bridge the gap between human concerns and galactic realities. The precursors selected humanity not because we were perfect, but because we possess qualities they valued: resilience, creativity, and a unique perspective forged by our evolutionary path. They believed these qualities would be essential to avoiding the mistakes they made in their own development. He paused, looking out at the assembly. But they also recognized that humanity alone cannot carry their legacy. That is why they created other vaults, keyed to other species with different but equally valuable traits. The expedition to locate the second vault will depart next month, with representatives from Earth among the crew. Together with the Confederation, we will seek out these other chosen species and build the collaborative future the precursors envisioned. The vote that followed was not unanimous, but the margin was decisive. The Earth Unification Council would be formed, with representatives selected by each nation according to a formula that balanced population, economic contribution, and cultural diversity. Nathan would serve as humanity's primary liaison to the Confederation, a role that leveraged both his unique connection to the precursor knowledge and his growing diplomatic experience. 6 weeks later, Nathan stood on the bridge of the Confederation exploration vessel Horizon Seeker as it prepared to depart Earth orbit. The ship was a marvel of galactic engineering, a sleek, elongated structure nearly a mile in length, equipped with technologies from dozens of worlds and staffed by a diverse crew representing 15 Confederation species. Commander Vazik, who had requested the assignment specifically to continue working with Nathan, occupied the central command position. Final preparations are complete, he announced, all 4 eyes focused on the holographic displays surrounding him. Departure in 3 minutes. Nathan nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The knowledge within him had revealed that this mission was more significant than even the Confederation understood. The second vault would contain revelations that would fundamentally alter the balance of power within the galaxy, and potentially reveal threats that neither humans nor the Confederation had yet imagined. Nervous? Asked Lauren Bennett, the xenobiologist who served as second human representative on the expedition. Like Nathan, she had been selected for her adaptability and open-minded approach to alien life. A healthy amount, Nathan admitted. We're about to meet another species chosen by the precursors. There's no telling what they'll be like or how they'll respond to contact. Lauren nodded, her expression thoughtful. I've been studying the data from long-range scans. If the readings are accurate, the species on Terith has a physiological structure unlike anything in Confederation records, silicon-based rather than carbon, with a crystalline cellular structure that resembles the mebari but functions entirely differently. Hyperspace engines engaged, announced the Tellurian navigator, her 6 limbs moving in coordinated precision across the control interfaces. Transition in 10 seconds. Nathan gripped the support rail as the familiar countdown began. Despite weeks of experience with Confederation FTL travel, the transition to hyperspace still left him slightly disoriented. 3, 2, 1 transition. The view outside the ship's observation ports shifted from the star-speckled blackness of normal space to the swirling luminescence of hyperspace. The journey to the Sagittarius arm would take 3 weeks at maximum speed, traversing distances that human science had once considered unbridgeable. As the crew settled into their routines, Nathan spent his time studying everything the Confederation had gathered about the Terith system and its inhabitants. The precursor knowledge within him continued to unfold, occasionally providing insights that helped contextualize the data. The Terithians evolved in an environment with extreme temperature variations, he explained during one briefing session. Their crystalline biology allows them to maintain cognitive function across a range that would kill most carbon-based life. The precursors likely selected them for their resilience and their fundamentally different perspective on reality. Commander Vazik's membranes fluttered thoughtfully. Different how? Nathan struggled to articulate what he somehow knew. They perceive time differently than we do, not linearly, but as overlapping patterns of probability. Their language doesn't distinguish between past, present, and future in the way most Confederation languages do. That would make communication challenging, observed Alara, who had joined the expedition as cultural liaison. But potentially invaluable, Nathan countered. Imagine the scientific insights possible from a species that intuitively grasps quantum probabilities the way humans understand solid objects. The discussions continued throughout the journey, preparations intensifying as they approached the Terith system. According to protocol, they would establish observation posts in orbit before making any contact, studying the civilization below to determine the best approach. On the 22nd day of the voyage, the Horizon Seeker transitioned back to normal space at the edge of the Terith system. The bridge crew fell silent as the first images appeared on the main display. "That's not what we expected," Lauren whispered, staring at the scene before them. The 4th planet from Terith's sun, the one their scans had identified as inhabited, was surrounded by an artificial structure that spanned the entire orbit. It resembled a lattice or web of crystalline material that glittered in the light of the system's yellow star. "Full sensor sweep," ordered Commander Vazik. "What are we looking at?" The science team worked rapidly, analyzing the incoming data. "It appears to be a single interconnected structure," reported the Viridian sensor specialist. "Composed of materials similar to the biological makeup of the planet's inhabitants, but engineered on a scale that suggests advanced technology far beyond what our long-range scans indicated." "Could our intelligence have been that inaccurate?" Lauren asked, turning to Nathan. Nathan shook his head slowly, a new understanding dawning within him as pieces of precursor knowledge clicked into place. "No," he said quietly. "We're seeing the result of the Terithians finding their own vault. They've accelerated their development exponentially." All eyes on the bridge turned to him. "Explain," Commander Vazik demanded. "The precursors established a timeline," Nathan said, the knowledge flowing through him now with unprecedented clarity. Each vault was meant to be discovered in a specific sequence, allowing the chosen species to develop in parallel and eventually come together as equals. But something has disrupted that timeline. The Terithians have accessed their vault prematurely. Alara floated closer, her crystalline surface pulsing with concern. How is that possible? The vaults were supposed to be unopenable without the unique perspective of each chosen species. Nathan frowned, concentrating on the unfolding knowledge within him. There's another player involved, something the precursors feared but couldn't directly address. An entity or force they referred to only as the adversary. The revelation sent a ripple of tension through the bridge. In 12,000 years of Confederation history, there had never been mention of such a being in any precursor artifact or record. Are you suggesting this adversary helped the Terithians open their vault ahead of schedule? Asked Vazik, his four eyes narrowed in concern. Not helped, Nathan corrected grimly. Manipulated. The precursors designed the vault system as a safeguard against precisely this scenario, a way to ensure that the chosen species would develop the wisdom to use advanced technology before gaining access to it. The adversary wants to short-circuit that process. Lauren studied the massive orbital structure with new apprehension. For what purpose? Nathan shook his head. That part isn't clear yet. But we need to establish contact immediately. If the Terithians have been influenced by this adversary, they may not understand the full implications of what they've done. Commander Vazik hesitated, clearly weighing Confederation protocols against this new information. This changes our approach significantly. If what you say is true, we're no longer dealing with a pre-spaceflight civilization, but an advanced one potentially under external influence. We still need to proceed carefully, Nathan cautioned. The Terithians aren't our enemies. They're victims of manipulation. They're still one of the chosen species, still essential to the Precursor's plan. After intensive consultation with both the expedition's leadership and experts back in Confederation space, a decision was reached. The Horizon Seeker would approach openly, broadcasting peaceful intentions on all frequencies and in all known communication formats. As they moved closer to the planet, details of the orbital structure became clearer. It wasn't a weapon or defensive system as some had feared, but rather an immense computational network, trillions of crystalline nodes working in concert, processing information at a scale beyond anything in the Confederation's experience. We're receiving a response, announced the communications specialist. Multiple formats, including several that match Confederation protocols they shouldn't have access to. Put it through, ordered Vazik. The main display shifted to show a being unlike any Nathan had seen in his travels with the Confederation. The Terithian resembled a humanoid figure composed entirely of interlocking crystalline structures that shifted and rearranged continuously, creating patterns of light and color that seemed to convey information in themselves. "Greetings, travelers," the being said, its voice a harmonious resonance that seemed to bypass the ship's speakers and vibrate directly in their minds. "We have been expecting you." Nathan stepped forward. "I am Nathan Brooks of Earth, representing both humanity and the Galactic Confederation. May I ask who I'm addressing?" The crystalline being's structure shifted into new configurations. "I am Crystalline Confluence Designation 7, but you may call me 7. I speak for the Terithian Unity." 7, Nathan acknowledged. "Our scans indicate your civilization has advanced rapidly in recent times. We believe this may be connected to your discovery of a precursor vault on your world." 7's crystalline structure pulsed with colors that Nathan somehow recognized as surprise. "You know of the illumination chamber?" "Yes, we discovered it beneath our southern polar region approximately 70 cycles ago. It has transformed our understanding of reality." "We've discovered a similar vault," Nathan explained carefully. "It contained knowledge left by the precursors, the beings who seeded our galaxy with life millions of years ago. We believe your chamber is part of the same network." 7 was silent for a moment, its crystalline structure cycling through complex patterns. "Interesting. The entity that helped us access the chamber spoke of connections to other worlds, but not in these terms." Nathan exchanged a meaningful glance with Vazik. "This entity, can you describe it?" "Not in ways your sensory apparatus would comprehend," 7 replied. "It exists across multiple probability states simultaneously. It guided us to the chamber and assisted in its opening when our conventional approaches failed. And what did you find within? Nathan asked, treading carefully. Seven's structure shifted to a configuration that somehow conveyed enthusiasm, knowledge beyond imagining, the ability to manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level. The network you observe around our world is just the first implementation, a unified computational system that allows our entire species to function as a single consciousness while maintaining individual perspectives. Nathan nodded slowly. The structure is remarkable. May I ask what purpose it serves beyond computational functions? There was a slight hesitation before Seven responded. It serves many purposes. Currently, it is primarily focused on analyzing the coordinates provided by the chamber, the locations of other repositories across the galaxy. Commander Vazek stepped forward. We possess similar coordinates from our vault. Perhaps we could compare them to confirm they are indeed part of the same network. A reasonable proposal, Seven agreed. We welcome the opportunity to verify our findings. As the exchange continued, Nathan felt a growing sense of unease. The Terithians seemed genuinely interested in cooperation, but there were subtle inconsistencies in Seven's responses that suggested the influence of this mysterious entity was deeper than they were acknowledging. After the initial contact was established, the Horizon Seeker was invited to enter orbit around Terith. A delegation including Nathan, Commander Vazek, Lauren, and Alara would shuttle down to the surface to meet with the Terithian leadership in person. Something isn't right, Nathan told the others as they prepared for the journey. The knowledge within me is reacting to what we've learned. The precursors were specific about the sequence of vault discoveries for a reason. The premature opening of the Terithian vault has created an instability in the process. What kind of instability? Asked Lauren, checking her environmental suit, a precaution for the extreme conditions on Terith's surface. Nathan struggled to articulate what he was experiencing. It's like, imagine a complex machine with parts that need to be assembled in a specific order. If you connect the wrong components too soon, the entire system becomes unstable. Do you believe we're in danger? Vazek asked directly. Not immediately, Nathan replied after a moment of consideration. But I believe the Terithians are being influenced in ways they don't understand. This entity, the adversary the precursors feared, is using them to access the other vaults prematurely. Alara's crystalline form pulsed with concern. To what end? Nathan shook his head. That's still unclear, but I think we'll find answers on the surface. The shuttle descent was uneventful, bringing them down to a landing pad constructed of the same crystalline material as the orbital network. The surface of Terith was a stark landscape of jagged crystal formations and vast plains of what appeared to be liquid metal, with temperatures fluctuating wildly as the planet's unusual rotation exposed different regions to its sun. A delegation of Terithians waited to greet them, being similar to Seven but with greater variation in their crystalline structures. They communicated primarily through shifting patterns of light and color, with verbal translation provided for the benefit of the visitors. Welcome to Terith, said the leader of the delegation, introducing itself as First Confluence. We are honored to host representatives from both the Confederation and another chosen world. The formalities of first contact proceeded smoothly, with both sides exchanging information about their respective civilizations and discoveries. The Terithians were surprisingly forthcoming about their history and the transformative impact of finding their vault, or illumination chamber, as they called it. Before the discovery, we existed as separate consciousness nodes with limited interconnection. First Confluence explained as they toured a vast crystalline city that seemed to grow organically from the planet's surface. The knowledge from the chamber allowed us to create the Unity Network, linking all Terithian minds while preserving individual perspective, the optimal balance of collective and individual thought. And this entity that assisted you, Nathan probed carefully. Has it remained in contact since the chamber was opened? First Confluence's structure shifted in a pattern that Nathan interpreted as hesitation. The entity comes and goes across probability states. It advised us that other chosen species would eventually make contact and that we should prepare accordingly. Prepare how? Commander Vazik asked. By constructing technology compatible with multiple biological forms, First Confluence responded. The entity explained that the chosen species are physiologically diverse, but fundamentally compatible in terms of cognitive processing. It helped us design interfaces that would allow non-crystalline beings to connect to our systems. As they continued the tour, Nathan found his attention drawn to a massive structure at the center of the city, a towering spire of shifting crystalline material that pulsed with energy patterns far more complex than those of the Terithians themselves. "What is that building?" he asked, pointing to the spire. "The probability nexus," First Confluence replied. "It houses the primary node of our connection to the quantum substrate. The entity helped us design it as a way to communicate across vast distances instantly, regardless of spatial separation." Nathan felt a sudden surge of understanding from the precursor knowledge within him. "It's a beacon," he said quietly to his companions. "They're broadcasting the locations of the other vaults across the galaxy." "Is that not the purpose?" asked Alara. "To find the other chosen species?" "Not like this," Nathan replied grimly. "The precursors intended each vault to be discovered independently at the right stage of each species' development. This beacon could allow the wrong entities to locate the vaults prematurely." Commander Vazik's membranes flattened against his face. "We need to learn more about this entity and its true intentions." The opportunity came during a formal reception held in honor of the visitors. While the other delegates engaged with various Terithian representatives, Nathan approached First Confluence directly. "There's something I need to ask you," he said, keeping his voice low. "The knowledge I received from our vault included warnings about an adversary, a being that the precursors feared might interfere with their plan for the chosen species. I believe this entity that helped you may be that adversary." First Confluence's crystalline structure froze momentarily, then began shifting in rapid, chaotic patterns. "That contradicts what we were told." The entity presented itself as a guardian appointed by the precursors to guide the chosen species. "I understand," Nathan said gently. "But consider this. Why would true guardians help you bypass the intended discovery process? The vaults were designed to be opened by each species through their own unique perspective, not with external assistance." The Terithian leader's structure continued to shift in disturbed patterns. "What evidence do you have of this claim?" Nathan hesitated, then made a decision. "With your permission, I can share the relevant knowledge directly." The precursors designed the information transfer system to be compatible between all chosen species. After a moment of apparent internal deliberation, First Confluence agreed. "How would this transfer occur?" "Physical contact should be sufficient," Nathan explained, extending his hand. The precursors created universal compatibility protocols for exactly this purpose. First Confluence extended a crystalline appendage until it touched Nathan's palm. The contact sent a jolt of energy through Nathan's body as the precursor knowledge activated, creating a temporary neural bridge between the two fundamentally different forms of consciousness. For a moment, Nathan experienced reality through Terithian perception, seeing time as overlapping probability states rather than a linear progression. The sensation was disorienting but illuminating, providing insights he could never have gained otherwise. When the connection broke, First Confluence's structure had stabilized into a configuration Nathan somehow knew indicated profound concern. "What you've shared, it aligns with anomalies we've detected in the entity's directives, but couldn't properly contextualize," the Terithian leader admitted. "The probability nexus has functions beyond what we were told, broadcasting on frequencies we cannot fully monitor. I believe the entity is using your technology to locate and potentially access the other vaults before their intended time," Nathan explained. The precursors were explicit about the dangers of premature access. Each species needs to develop the ethical framework to handle the knowledge they receive, or the consequences could be catastrophic. First Confluence's structure shifted to a configuration that somehow conveyed determination. We must disconnect the nexus immediately and reconfigure the orbital network to block these unauthorized transmissions. The events that followed unfolded with breathtaking speed. As First Confluence issued commands to shut down the probability nexus, the massive crystalline spires suddenly pulsed with blinding intensity. Energy patterns unlike anything seen before cascaded through its structure, and a voice that seemed to bypass auditory processing resonated through the minds of everyone present. This interference will not be permitted. The entity had revealed itself at last. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.